I think you'd be wrong. I might not necessarily agree with you, which is part of the fun of this kind of conversation, I guess. No, Marcus, it certainly is. I mean, just as a sort of a general thing, males are easier to approach, I think, just because they're typically solitary. They move around a lot more. They encounter a lot more variety of other species of animals as well. And this is a long discussion which will play out maybe over the next few years of fires. But with breeding herds, I think it's just a huge part of it. And this is something that I'm quite passionate about, not just about elephants, but in terms of how people behave around elephants rather than elephants around people. Is breeding herds is just approached differently, I think. You know, with bulls, you can sort of cruise right up to them and sort of say, how's it? And they can tell you what they're feeling, and you can quite quickly get an idea of what's going on. But with females, because they've got a whole herd and a family structure to look after, they've got little babies and cousins and maybe some visitors at the time and maybe a musk bull that's giving them grief. You've just got to sort of ease in a lot more. They've got to feel secure with your behavior before you're going to feel secure with their behavior. I think that's probably the main thing for me that's different with breeding herds. But yeah.
Have you had any encounters, Jan? Because you've been out there quite a few times on the road. Have you had any interesting encounters with bull elephants?
Marco, actually, when we started talking about elephants, I actually thought about an encounter. I didn't have it here, but I had it in Botswana. I'm not going it's a very long story, but basically what happened was I was sitting also exactly similar to this, just a little bit earlier in the day, sitting alone in a campfire, and along came an elephant. It was a very old elephant bull. He had only one tusk, and I know I've told you guys the story a couple of million times, but it's one of my favorite stories.
Only a couple of thousand times.
Yeah, sure, not a couple of million.
It's an elephant story.
But yes, it was just spectacular. This elephant was in Savuti in Botswana, and this beautiful elephant bull, one tusker, came down. There was a little bit of a riverbed in front of me, and he was standing on the other side on a dam wall kind of thing. And I knew there was a lot of other elephants on the other side drinking, and I could hear them swimming and stuff. And eventually this elephant bull came closer, and he came till eventually like 4 or 5 meters from me, maybe 5-6 meters from me, and he just stood there, and I was sitting there but shaking in my chair. It was spectacular, just this elephant so close. It's a totally wild situation. I really didn't have anywhere to go to. The closest place was the ablution blocks, probably a couple of 100 meters away, and there was big acacia trees, so no actual way I could climb into them. But this elephant bull came very, very close, and a couple of minutes later another younger bull came, also from more or less the same place where this elephant bull came from. And the first elephant bull, the one who was standing close to me, turned around and it went back to this younger bull, and they stood head to head like this, like literally head to head, for probably a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, without making a sound, not making a movement, nothing. And then suddenly just all chaos broke loose, and they started chasing each other around. And the first elephant bull, the older one with the one tusk, just ran away, and the younger one came past me and stopped. Mark charged me. I by this time stood up and moved away a little bit, but Mark charged me and then turned back and just kept on chasing the other elephant bull.
Interesting term, mock charge or warning charge with other people. It's the difference.
You can also call it a greeting charge or a play charge or
a lot of different.
See if I can make you run charge.
I've always said that if I came back to the bush, I'd come back as an elephant so I could play around with the people on the safari vehicles and give them a little bit of excitement. But that terminology, a warning charge and a real charge, how, in your eyes, how would you describe it, Peter? If you were standing in a situation and an elephant.
I was wondering if questions are going to go this way, because this becomes an experiment or experiential explanation. In other words, it's obviously a much easier thing to explain at the time. You know, there's obviously similarities in how elephants behave, but also, you know, at the time, I was thinking actually earlier of Alex behind the camera there, busy making sure you're seeing this all nicely. Alex's first close elephant experience, I think, really up close, apart from some scary ones that he had in Congo, was a big bull. It was on one of the cliffs as well. It was a breeding herd. Again, there were other vehicles standing quite far away. The one was in must and so on. And we just sort of stood a little bit ahead of them, not in their way, but they could choose where they go. And the bull came and stood right next to us in the end, probably from here to, Alex, from here to a little bit further than Janaway. Huh? Remember that time on Philemon's cut line? And he never gave a mock charge or something, but he was a bit more imposing, if you want, in his behavior than maybe an elephant cow that's, you know, with Rexon once on camera, we had it charging in, you know, from 60 meters away. So I think a mock charge, you know, like I said, a lot of them can be playful. with bulls, often you can have them literally just playing around with you. I've done it with them where they mock charge you and you stop and they stop.
Experiential, and I emphasize this all the time, that nature doesn't live in a book, so we can never give a book story and say this is how it works, but there are, as a guide, there's certain rules that you learn.
Yeah, no, obviously, I mean, there's the typical things which many of you probably aware of as well. Mock charge, typically ears open, trumpeting, lots of noise, branches breaking, dust flying. Literally that, trying to be as big and boisterous and intimidating as possible. Serious charges, typically trunk is tucked away, ears are flat, there's not that much noise going on. The elephant is now deciding, I'm going to run towards you and do something. But and again, we're going to cut this conversation short just now, but very often you hear about guides that tell you about an elephant that charged them and they drove away for hundreds of meters or kilometers with the elephant that close to them, and it was just that close and they just got away. You must keep in mind that an elephant can run 55, 60 kilometers an hour, which is a very, very fast speed to be driving through the bush, almost impossible. So the point is, if the elephant actually wanted to catch you, it would, and if it did want to do something, it would. So even a lot of charges that people come back and explain as a serious charge are still mock charges. So I think a mock charge you read way more in the behavior beforehand. There was, if you're coming up to the elephant, how that elephant behaves when you're 60 meters away and 100 meters away and 20 meters away, so that by the time it then gives you some kind of interaction, you've got a much clearer idea of what it is about them. So if you get what I'm saying. So
Absolutely.
It's the behavior building up to the mock charge that tells you what kind of charge it is.
And I did mention that to Alex as well when we had that situation with that bull. If his intention was to cause damage to us and to actually proceed with a full charge, he would have let us know a long time before we actually got there. So just by his behavior on our approach, it gives you a good indication on the actual seriousness of a charge when it does actually happen.